All right, so we've been creating a form and we've been utilizing fields and controls within that form, but what we haven't done yet is send data back and forth between forms. In other words, here is a form, and if I click on this open form, the idea here being that I'm going to put in some text here, like perhaps my name, and then when I hit submit, that text is going to be sent to this label. I'm also going to give us the ability to, or like to show us how we're going to edit that information. So edit, instead of Kirsten, I meant to put in, maybe she had a name change and now she's Kalani for some reason. So if I hit submit, now that update is going to reflect here in the label. So in this video, we're going to take care of this first portion where we're going to open up a form, put in some type of name, hit submit, or if we hit cancel, nothing will happen, and that name change will come into this label. So let's dive in and see how that happens. All right, so I have set up a form ahead of time. This is the original form, the first form, where if you click on open, it'll open up a new form, and then here is a label that is waiting to receive the information. I don't think I called it anything fancy. Let's call it label name, something along those lines. And so let's rock and roll. So the first thing we need to do is, obviously, when we clicked on open, a new form opened. And so let's come over here to our Solution Explorer, and we're going to right click on our solution, our project file, not our solution, our project, and we're going to click on add, and you can click on either new name, or if you scroll down, you're going to see Windows form. So the point is we are creating a new form, and we're going to call this one form property because we're going to, I don't know, sounds familiar if you look at the specs of the final exam. So then as we saw prior, we're going to have a text box. In our example, we saw a text box, and spread this out some so I can add a little bit more room horizontally. And then we're going to have two buttons, one that has the submit and one that has the cancel. So on our submit button, we will call that button submit. And then of course the text also needs to be submit, submit. And then make it a little bit bigger so we can see it. And then the second button then is button cancel. So the user can choose not to do anything if they don't want to make any edits or changes. So our text then is cancel. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do for these buttons in particular is on their own, they're just buttons. They don't actually do a submit and cancel. We did dialog result in one of our prior assignments. And so let's turn these into that same capability where we can do a dialog, check to see if a dialog canceled or if it was accepted. And so the way you can do that is if you look at our properties here under the button, so I have the button currently, cancel button currently selected. And I look at dialog result, it currently says no. So we're going to give it one of those options. In other words, this is going to be a cancel dialog result, and our submit then will be an okay dialog result. So, perfect. Okay, so now we've got that set up. So first of all, we need to, from our main form, when the user clicked on open, this form opens. So we've created it, but it doesn't actually open the application until we tell it to do so. And so if we look in our original form, I'm going to close out the toolbox now just to give myself some more real estate. So in our original form, wrong one, main form, if they double click on open, we want to open up that form that we just created, kind of like our little dialog box, right? And so what we'll do is it was called form property. And so it's no different than what we've been doing in the past. We have to think of the fact that our forms are actually objects, similar to what we've done when we've created new objects in the past, instantiated a new object. What we'll do is form, we'll call this my form, let's do form instead of from, my form equals, so we're going to create a new object, instantiate a new form object from that form that we just created, form property. And now we have a handle on all of its methods, or all of its public methods or public properties. So that's an important key to remember. So let's go over to that form now. And that was our form property. And what we need to understand here is that all of these controls are private. to this particular form. So in order to send data back and forth, in particular the data that's in the text field, we're going to need to make this public. And here's how we're going to do that. So if I go into, let's see, if we double click on submit, the idea here is that we want to create a public property that is then available to our original form, to our form main. So we've done that in the past. We've created public properties. And here's a little shortcut I'm going to give you. If you type in the word prop for properties and hit tab twice, there's a little shortcut here for you. And so we're going to type in string because we're going to keep track of, I'm going to call it full name. We're going to utilize a property called full name that will enable us to send that data back and forth. In other words, whatever was in that text field, in fact, I'm going to do it right here so you'll see it. So full name is equal to whatever the user typed into that text box, which I guess we didn't name yet, but I thought we had. So let's go back into the form property, and we're going to look back at the, we didn't call this anything, so I need to call it something meaningful. So let's call it text full name. Remember, this is private. So now that I have a name on this text box, I can go back into that. There we go. So now I can go back into my code behind the scenes, my code, type text full name dot text. And so what I've in essence done is taken the private information that's in that text box, put it into the public property so that now main form can have access to it. Okay? So let's go back into the main form and see how I'm going to build this. Shift Control B or build, either one, build solution, just because I want to make sure that I don't have any errors at this point. So no red squiggly lines, things are looking good. All right, so let's look back in our original form main CS, and remember where we created, this was in our button open click, so we created a object called myForm, which refers to that property form that we just created, which now has a public property called full name that we've created. All right, so let's do like we've done before. We're going to check the dialog result, and we have to display that form. So we're going to do it the same way we've done before, where we're going to do myForm, show dialog. So we're going to show, now if you hit show in this case, this IntelliSense is showing the method show, that'll show the dialog box, but it won't send any data back. And in this case, we want to do a show dialog so that we can get the result back from that form. Okay, and so very similar to what we've already done, if result is equal to dialog result dot cancel, we set up that cancel button, remember, then we want to return and do nothing. Okay, otherwise we need to get that text field from the user. So remember that text field was put into the public property called full name, and so we have to get that value from full name because the control text box itself is private. We don't have access to it. So our label that we created here, we called it name dot text, is going to be equal to the object myForm and its public property, which is text. Not text, it was myForm, we called it full name. So I should see it there. There it is. Okay, so this looks good so far. Now here's the important part to remember. At this point in time, I'm going to close out the form because, let me just do that. I want the form to go away because I've gotten what I need from it. But what's important to remember is that if I close this form out, let's go back to our form property. When I click on submit, that information is being set to our public property. If I close this form out at this point in time, that public property is going to disappear. As soon as I do form close, the form and all of its properties are going to disappear. So I have to be careful that I don't close this form when I submit, when I click on the submit button, that I leave the form open until main form can get to the property value right here, and then close the form. Because as soon as that form's closed, full name disappears for me. And so let's just run that and make sure that's in fact working. And so the idea was when I click on open, this form opens up. Remember, this is private, so submit then when I put a name. Submit, let's see, let's pull that, see if I can, I should have done it so you can see. Let's hit cancel so we see nothing happens. Let me bring up, I want to show you with the data actually, there we go. I wanted the code in the background so we could actually see it. So the idea was when I click on open, when I type in a word like my name, the submit button is going to be clicked. When the submit button gets clicked, full name is being assigned, our public property is being assigned the text data, full name.text. And then, although it's going to be very quick to see, we won't see it actually happening because it'll be so quick. When the data gets sent, the dialog result receives this text information and updates the data, and then the form gets closed. So we can run that through one more time. It might be a good idea to pull form CS out at the same time, and let's see that all working side by side. There we go. And so let's run it one more time and just make sure that we can. I'll put the form, main form CS and form property CS. There we go. And so that I can watch this code, see this code in behind the scenes. So button, let's just run it one more time. So if I click on open, first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to create my instance of the new form, the property form. My dialog is set up so that way when the user submits the data, we can capture it. So let's just see that happen. So now the form is up. I'm going to type in a name. Submit then is here. Submit is going to put whatever's in this text field into our public property full name. The dialog is going to be returned because we set those buttons up as dialog results. That value is going to be put into result. Result is going to check to see, was that the cancel that we set up? Or was that if it's not the cancel, then obviously they hit the submit. And so get that information, get that from my form full name, that public property, put that into this label here, and then close this form. So, and it happens very quickly. So that's how we open up a new form and we get data from it into our current form. So in the next video, what we'll do is the second part where we'll add the edit button and then be able to edit whatever's here.